Hello, so in this video we're going over an introduction into Amazon advertising, how it works, when to run campaigns, and just a rough overview of the program. So firstly, why do you want to advertise? And the reason is to grow your business. There's two main ways of growing your sales, of growing Amazon product sales. The first is promotions. When a product is on promotion, on discount, more people will buy it and your sales will increase. And then the other way is to get more people to view it, to click on it. And the way you do that is through Amazon advertising. It helps drive more sales, visibility, and brand awareness. So we know that most purchases on the platform come from the first page of search results, and in particular the first couple rows of search results. You know, if you search chips, and if you're looking to buy chips, you're more likely to buy a product from this row at the top compared to page 7 or page 8. And so Amazon advertising helps get your products in front of more people by getting them closer to page 1 of search results. And then when do you want to advertise? So generally speaking, the flowchart for your kind of Amazon journey is, first of all, the most important thing is to actually create the products. You know, if the product isn't on Amazon, you're not gonna, everything else is irrelevant. So you want to make sure that the product is created and it's added to your vendor central catalog. There's an ASIN number and there's a live detail page. So that's the first step. After you've created the product, you then want to make sure that it's in stock, right? It's actually available for customers to buy. If the product is not in stock, right, and if the customer can't buy it, there is no point in running Amazon advertising campaigns. And so this is where you look at things like direct fulfillment, purchase orders. Again, no point advertising if the product is not in stock. And so once you've got the product in stock and you've got inventory, then we go to step 3. And this is, how do we get more customers to click on the product, to view it? And this is the answer: advertising. It is best to advertise after the product page is optimized. So you've got the maximum images, A+ content. It is generally best to advertise once you've done that, because then it is more likely that a customer will buy the product after they've clicked on the advertisement. And so the other kind of points after you've started advertising is doing things to increase the number of viewers that convert to customers. And this is where you look at things like A+ content, as I mentioned, images, promotions, and all of that. But really the purpose of this video is to go over advertising, which is, again, getting more eyeballs, more customers to click onto your product pages. So back to basics. What is Amazon advertising? So Amazon advertising is running paid ads on the Amazon platform to promote your products. It uses what is called a PPC, or a pay-per-click model. So it's an industry-wide advertising term called PPC. If you've used Google Ads, Facebook Ads, it's the same mechanism. Obviously the interfaces, the details are very different, but the same underlying mechanism of pay-per-click. If you haven't used the other, Google Ads, Facebook Ads, it doesn't matter. But that's kind of the industry-wide terminology, pay-per-click. And so what is pay-per-click, PPC? Basically, these are ads that you run, but you only pay when someone clicks on your ad. So if you run an ad on Amazon and nobody clicks on it, you don't have to pay anything. Even if that ad was shown to thousands of customers, it's only when a customer actually clicks on the ad are you then invoiced. Are you then, you are then charged for that click. That's why it's called pay per click. So a bit more detail in terms of pay per click and how it works. So essentially, pay per click, PPC, it works as an ad auction. So you have multiple brands that are competing for the top advertised placement, and it is the brand. It's an ad auction. It's the brand that bids the highest amount that has their products appear at the top of that advertised placement. So the brand that wins the ad auction has their products appear first, similar to a house auction or a car auction. The person that bids the amount, the highest amount, usually wins the auction and gets the car or the house, or in this case, they get the top placement. They get the best ad. Having said that, the brand is only charged when a user clicks on that ad, pay per click. So, for example, if a brand bids the highest amount, they win the ad auction and their products appear first. But a customer clicks on some other product, that brand that won the ad auction doesn't pay anything. They only pay something when a user clicks on their ad. So I'll go through an example, very basic, kind of rough example here. So in this particular case, we've got two different brands. We've got Jack's Chips at the top, and then we've got Sarah's Crisps at the bottom. Both of these brands, they're competitors. They want their products to appear at the very top of the search results when a customer types in chips. So Jack, he's created an advertising campaign for this keyword. He's put in the products that he wants to promote, and then he's put in a bid of $1.10. His maximum bid. And then Sarah, so she wants her products to appear on the same keyword chips, and so she's put in a bid of $2. So what happens is, this all occurs in the back end. We don't really see this anywhere. This all occurs in the back end. So every time, in real time, every time a user searches for the keyword chips and clicks on enter, there's that ad auction that occurs in the background. In this particular example, the ad auction, there's two different brands, Jack's and Sarah. And so in this case, Sarah will win the ad auction because she's bidding a higher amount, $2 versus $1.10. Sarah wins, and then Sarah's products will appear at the very top of search results. She will appear on the first spot, followed by Jack's products, who will appear in page 2 or the second placement, third placement, whatever. And then, say for example, a customer who's searched chips, say the customer clicks on Jack's ad, even though Jack's products might be at the bottom of the page or third, fourth placement. That's when Jack is charged, and so Jack will pay, for that click. Sarah does not pay anything, even though her ad was shown first because she won the ad auction. But again, this is just an overview of kind of how it works in the back end. We don't really see this play out. These ad auctions, it's all kind of in the back end. So that's PPC, and then how does PPC work on Amazon? So you select, when you set up the Amazon ads, and you do this in the advertising platform, you set up which keywords you want your products to appear on. You can also do it automatically, let Amazon automatically target what keywords are relevant for your products. You set up bids, how much you pay, you want to pay maximum for a click. and then the ads, they will compete, I guess, in that ad auction in the back end. All of this occurs in real time, so whenever a customer searches a particular keyword, every time that this process occurs, if you win, your ad is shown in the search results or the product pages, and you only pay if someone clicks on the ad. So here's an example of a keyword, chips. So I've searched chips in the Amazon search box, and so multiple different ads have come up. You can tell that it is an ad because the note sponsored in the red box appears. So here, and so this means that this particular placement is an advertised placement, meaning the products that appear in this placement are, they're advertised products. The brand, in this particular example, Red Rock Deli, they're bidding on this keyword chips, and so their products are appearing on this in this placement. Compared to something like Doritos, this is what we call an organic placement. It does not have that note sponsored, meaning it's just an organic placement. It's not a paid placement. This banner at the top, the Quest Nutrition banner, again, it says sponsored over here, meaning it's a paid placement. Quest, they've created an ad campaign to bid on the keyword, and so that's what that means. So again, the ad placements are fixed. So on every page, usually these placements are fixed. However, if there are no products bidding on a particular placement, then no ads will show, and it will just be the organic results. So I'll show you an example, a live example here. So I type in chips and I click on it. Again, in the background there's that ad auction, all of the different brands bidding on the keyword. So in this particular example, you can see the first 4 placements. This is Smith's, other brand. Smith's also own Red Rock Deli, so in this example, it's Smith's which are bidding the highest amount. Their products appear at the top of search results. As you can see, there's 4 placements at the top here. There's also this banner at the top. This is set up as a separate kind of placement, but again, same mechanism. The brand, in this case, it's Quest. They're bidding the highest amount, and so they've won the top kind of placement. You can see it says sponsored. And so if we scroll down, these are all organic placements. This is also an ad. Again, it says sponsored. So, this entire kind of video ad. In this case, Kitalicious. Kitalicious, this brand, they've won this placement. They've bid at the highest amount. These are all different placements, and I'll go through this shortly. This video, this sponsored products, and this banner at the top. Different placements set up in different ways, different functions, but again, in the mechanism, pay-per-click in the background, it works similar way. And so each of these sponsored placements, they're fixed. So pretty much on every page you have a banner at the top, then you have these 4 product placements, then you usually have this video ad in the middle. If you keep scrolling down, you have more sponsored placements here, these 4. And then usually at the very bottom, so you've got these 4 placements here, sponsored, and another one of these video ads here. So these are the kind of the fixed placements, and so if you go to the next page, again, you'll find the same thing. But the difference is on the second page, this is where they're not bidding, that the brands are likely not bidding as high an amount. The brands that are bidding the highest amount will appear on page 1. And here, yeah, so here's some more actually at the bottom. So these ones here, so sponsored, and looks like this video ad says sponsored as well. So here we go. Yeah, interesting. Oral-B, not very relevant toothpaste. So they've got the campaign running here. It looks like they're probably not bidding as high an amount as that Smith's brand, or maybe their products are not as relevant, and therefore that's why they're appearing on page 3. And then, yeah, so that's kind of how it works. The things to keep in mind, you can have a look at drinks to familiarize yourself with this. Similar scenario, Powerade at the top, and you've got Coke. All of these different sponsored placements. The other thing to keep in mind is these broad terms like drinks, snacks, very competitive, very broad, because a lot of customers search for these. So usually these are a bit more expensive and there's a lot more competition. So you have the bigger brands that advertise on these terms. Kind of like New York, the real estate very expensive. Everyone wants to live in New York, so the kind of auctions are quite expensive. Whereas if you type in a keyword like salt, vinegar, chips, maybe salt, vinegar. Yeah, so that's an example where it's a lot more narrow, and so typically you won't have as many brands competing for it, and so it's not as costly. If we type in, vegan chocolate, baking gift. Again, this is a lot more narrow in scope than chocolate, and so it'll probably be a bit more cheaper in terms of the cost, but a lot more narrow in the type of customers that you're targeting. The other thing to keep in mind is because this is such a narrow term, you can see on the page here, there's only 3 sponsored placements. So it looks like in this example, there's only these 3 brands that are bidding on this keyword. If I were to set up an advertising campaign on this keyword, there would appear a 4th product over here. But again, there's only 3 brands that are bidding on it, 3 products, which is why only 3 products appear. You can also see there's no banner at the top. So in this case, if we wanted to set up a banner ad, we could. It would probably be quite cheap because, again, there's no competition. We could set it at the minimum, and then our banner will likely appear at the top here. But again, there's it's a lot more narrow in scope. There's a video ad here. If you type in something very narrow, like vegan baking gift chocolate, orange sweets, maybe something very narrow. So something like this, where like I'm probably the first person to search this ever. Turkey vegan baking, then you can see here there's no one advertising. There's no sponsored placements, or I guess except this one here. But it looks like they set up an automatic campaign, but you can see there's no placements at the top. So again, very narrow campaigns, you'll find less brands advertising. That's kind of the point there. So going into a bit more detail, the different types of advertisements that you can create on Amazon. So as I mentioned, all of the advertised placements are given by that sponsored text, the sponsored annotation. But broadly speaking, there's 3 different types of ads that you can run. The first is called sponsored products, which I show you at the top here. So these 4 placements, the first 4 search results, this is called a sponsored product. At the top here is a sponsored brand, this banner. That's a sponsored brand. And then a sponsored display is, in this case, it's this video over here. Sponsored display is actually, if you open a placement, so similar example, so it says sponsored here, so this is a sponsored display, and then another one over here, oops, yeah, this one here, and then if you keep scrolling down, so this is a sponsored product. Again, it says sponsored, so each of these tiles are sponsored, and so this is a sponsored product. And if you keep scrolling down, this is a sponsored brand. You can see it says sponsored. So in this case, there's 1, 2, 3 different sponsored brand ads coming up, 3 different brands. And then this is not an ad because it does not say sponsored here, whereas this Huawei watch is. It says sponsored. I think this is a sponsored display. And then so is this one. It's another ad, probably a sponsored display, I believe. But yeah, the main sponsored brand ad occurs on a ham. So there's none here. Is this banner ad at the top? That's the main sponsored display. Sorry, sponsored brand. The sponsored displays are usually on the product pages themselves. So those are the 3 different placements. You will have the opportunity to create multiple different placements, depending on each of them have a different function, a different purpose, a different. Some work better than others. Some are more expensive than others. The most common is sponsored products. Typically, you know, they're the easiest to set up. You'll start out with setting these up only. Generally speaking, probably 70-80% of your advertising budget will go towards the sponsored products. They're the most common, most effective in driving sales. So these are the ones you'll be most familiar with, sponsored products. Moving forward, so, you know, once you set up advertising campaigns for all of the products that you want to advertise, then the question is, how do you measure the success? How do you track them? This is probably the most common thing that you do as an advertiser, is tracking the performance of your advertising campaigns. And you do that by measuring metrics. So the advertising portal will show you these metrics for each of the different products, campaigns that you're running. And I'll go through them on this slide. So firstly, cost. This is how much you're spending for your advertising campaigns. What is the cost? Typically, the brand will give you a budget, how much they want to spend. Yeah, it might be $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, something like that. And so the cost will track how much you've spent. Moving forward, sales. So how much sales have your advertising campaigns delivered? So this is specifically, if I am a customer, I type in stool, I then click on this top placement. The brand is charged, remember, cost per click, so they then pay $1 or however much the cost is. And then if I were to buy this product at the moment, I won't do that, but if I were to buy the product, this will come up as an advertising sale. The advertising campaign has generated a sale, and so you will see this metric, sales, advertising sales, come up as a result of my purchase. if I was a customer, I type in stools, I then scroll down. So instead of buying this outfit, this bar stool, I scroll down and I buy the same placement in an organic result. So in a placement that's not an ad, so this placement will appear further down as well. This will not come up as an advertising sale because it hasn't come from the advertising placement. It's come from a normal online placement. So let me just think of an example. So another example here is, say I'm a customer, I type in Sunbright crisps as a search term. We then look at search results. You can see there's this caramelized onion ad. It says sponsored. But then we've also got the same product over here. This is called an organic result. So this is just a normal search result. It is not an ad. So if I'm a customer, I type in the Sunbright crisps. It comes up here. If I click on this placement, the brand Sunbrights will get charged. And then if I buy the product from after clicking on this ad, then it will come up as a advertised sale in the advertised platform. However, if I don't buy the product from this placement, instead I buy it from this organic placement that is not an ad, it will just be an organic sale. It will not be an advertised sale. It will not come up in the advertising platform. So that's kind of the difference there. And so going back to our metrics, all of these metrics, and you'll see these metrics in the advertising platform, AmazonAdvertising.com, you'll be quite familiar with these over time. But all of these metrics specifically track your ads, not your total online or total organic sales. If you want to measure your total sales, both organic and advertising, then you go to Vendor Central. That will show you your total sales. Advertising portal will only show you the advertising metrics. So we have our ad sales, and then the next metric is ROAS. This is probably the most common, most important metric on the platform, and so this stands for return on ad spend. Really, what this does, it tracks how effective your advertising campaigns are performing. To calculate it, it is the ad sales, so sales coming from the ads divided by the costs for running those ads. So if you've, for example, if you have $10 in sales coming from the ads and you've spent $5 in ad costs, 10 divided by 5 is 2, so it's a 200% return on ad spend. Meaning for every dollar you've put in, you've got kind of $2 out, 200% a return on ad spend. Probably the most common metric. And so then we go into number 4, impressions. So this measures how many times the ad was shown to a customer. So not how many times they've clicked on it, just how many times they've seen the ad. And then clicks, so like how many times the ad was clicked on, 10 clicks, 10 clicks. Pretty self-explanatory. It's it's when the ad is clicked, that's when the brand is charged. Cost per click is just your total advertising cost divided by a number of clicks. So if you've spent $10 on your advertising campaigns, so just trying to think of a bit. $10 on your advertising campaigns, total cost, and then you've had 5 clicks. So $10 divided by 5 clicks is 2, so $2 per click. $2 CPC, cost per click. And then your click-through rate, this is what percentage of customers have clicked on the ad after it's been shown. So for example, if your click-through rate is 1%, that means 1% of customers have clicked on the ad after it was shown to them. All of these metrics depend on the product type, different product, different ad, but maybe your click-through rate might be like 4%, for example, means 4% of customers have clicked on the ad after it was shown to them. And so that the way this is calculated, it's clicks divided by impressions. So you take your clicks divided by impressions, and it will give you your what percentage of customers have clicked on the ad, the click-through rate. And then number 8, this is your orders, like how many orders has that ad campaign delivered. Again, this is solely from the advertised placement. So it's pretty much the same as your sales, except sales is a dollar value, $1,000, whatever. Orders is number of, orders sold, 10, 11, number of units. And then the last metric is your conversion rate. So your conversion rate is calculated by taking the orders and then dividing it by the clicks and then multiplying it by 100. It's a percentage. So for example, if your conversion rate is 30%, that means 30% of customers after they've clicked on the ad have then converted to a sale, have then actually bought the product. So your conversion rate, that this measures, once they've opened the product page, what percent have actually bought the product. Obviously, we want these to be as high as possible. So as an advertiser, or as a person managing advertising campaigns, you've got an important role, and your role is really to create, to manage, to optimize the advertising campaigns for the brand. The brand will typically provide you with a monthly budget, how much they want to spend on advertising per month. They will the advertising costs spent by the client, by the brand. And so it is your job to, as an advertiser, to manage these campaigns, to ensure that the advertising budget is spent effectively, to not waste advertising dollars. You want to be careful that you don't overspend the advertising budget that the client provides. This is probably the main issue that can happen. So you want to be very careful of this. It's very easy to do. If the client gives us an advertising budget of $1,000 per month, you don't want to spend $5,000 that month. That could be an issue. So just be mindful of that. For example, if you're bidding on a keyword like chips or like snacks, it is very easy to spend a lot of money because you've got these massive brands like Smith's, maybe Coke, all these big brands who have a lot of money that they're spending on ads. So it's very easy to spend a lot of money, but you just want to be careful that you're spending within the client's advertised budget. You also want to make sure that you're promoting the products that you've thought this through. There's a strategy behind it. You want to be mindful of this. Are the products you're promoting, are they in stock? Are they products that the client wants you to promote? Are they products that the client will sell in the future? Does the client want to promote these products? If the client it's an obsolete product, the client doesn't want to sell them in the future, why promote them? So this is where you need a strategy. You need to ask client questions, and you need to be mindful of the process. Are you bidding on long tail or generic keywords? So what this means is a long tail keyword is a specific keyword. For example, salted vinegar vegan potato chips. Very long tail. That's what it's called. It's an industry term, long tail keywords. And then we have broad or generic keywords like snacks, drinks, chips. Typically, the more long tail the keyword, typically the better the result will be because it's a lot more specific and targeted. Whereas more broad or generic keywords typically cost more, the returns are not as great. But again, it depends on the budget, it depends on what you're trying to achieve, and it depends on a lot of different factors. But these are all questions to ask, things to keep in mind. You'll become more familiar with these as you run more ad campaigns. And then just to summarize in terms of a glossary, so PPC, short for pay-per-click, it is the advertising model that Amazon advertising uses. Same as Google ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, all kind of work the same way. Keywords, so these are the words or the phrases that you're using in your ads that you're trying to target in your ads. You may select keywords you'd like to target with manual targeting, or you can let Amazon Ads select keywords with automatic targeting. I'll go through these in a future video in more detail. Placement, so this is what type of placement the advertising is, campaign that you've set up is targeting. You will set up different ad campaigns for different placements. A sponsored brand, there's sponsored brands, sponsored products, sponsored display. They have different placements. If you want to have your products to appear in a sponsored brand, you will set up a separate sponsored brand campaign. Versus if you want the products to appear as sponsored products, then you would set up a separate placement or a separate ad campaign for those products. So they're just different placements. Each of them have different functions, different kind of ways of setting it up, different costs and metrics. So you'll work more closely with these. Budget, your advertising budget, how much do you want to spend on your advertising campaigns? This is provided by the client, usually on a monthly basis. $2,000 per month budget, meaning $2,000 for your ad campaigns per month. And then usually the budget will reset every month. So for example, if you put in a budget of $2,000, or the client says they want to spend $2,000 per month on their ad campaigns, you set up the ad campaigns with a $2,000 budget. If you've exhausted your entire budget mid-month, usually your ad campaigns will stop mid-month, and then the next month, on the first of the month, they will reset, and you will have $2,000 again to spend for that month. But that's going in a bit more detail. We'll go through that in a bit more detail in the next videos. Bid, so this is how much you're willing to pay for shoppers to click on your advertisement. How much do you want to bid on that keyword? The more you bid, the more likely your products will appear at the top of search results, and the more customers your products will be shown to. More likely that the customer will buy the product as well. You can use automatic bidding. Your bid will be automatically optimized by Amazon's platform, or you can manually choose the bid that you want. Again, we'll go through this in a bit more detail. And then the cost per click. So this is the average cost you pay each time someone clicks on your ad. If a user does not click on the ad, there's no cost. The cost per click is calculated by dividing the total amount of money you spent on an ad divided by number of clicks. If you spent $1,000 on your ad and that's resulted in 1,000 clicks, 1,000 divided by 1,000 is $1 cost per click. And then lastly, organic sales. So this is sales coming from search result tiles that are not advertised, that are not paid for. So you'll have the opportunity to measure, to measure this closely and to work with your kind of track this closely. So you'll be tracking your organic sales, you'll be tracking your advertised sales. So how many sales are coming from the advertised placements? How many sales are coming from your organic placements? So it's going to be important to know what this organic term means. So I'll recap it again. If I type in balsamic vinegar chips, so we've got this product here, and then this exact same ASIN. These are different. So this one, the balsamic vinegar, and then this balsamic vinegar, So this one, the one that says sponsored over here, this is an advertised placement. If I were to click on it, the brand would get charged. They've set this up in the ad as an ad campaign in the advertising portal, whereas this placement here is an organic placement. Same ASIN, everything is the same except it's not paid because it doesn't say sponsored. It is a normal organic placement. If I were to click on it, the brand does not get charged. So this is something to keep in mind. For example, another example is this product here, Smith's Thinly Cut. So this might be a product that does not perform as well, and so they've got this advertised placement over here, whereas the organic placement might be page 4, page 5, right? We might have to keep scrolling down until we find it. So in this case, it's not on the first page. And so maybe it's page 3 or page 4. But again, the thing to keep in mind is you just need to understand the difference between an organic placement and an advertised placement. Cool. So that concludes the very rough kind of introduction into Amazon advertising, how it works, and stay tuned for the next step. Thanks. Bye.